Have you ever felt like life kept breaking you, just to rebuild something unshakable within you? Welcome to Heaven's Chosen. This isn't just another video. This is a moment of revelation. If you're here, it's not by accident. You're being called. You've been tested, refined, and maybe even forgotten by the world, but not by the higher power guiding your steps. In this video, you're going to learn the hidden reasons behind your deepest struggles, why certain doors had to close, and how your pain shaped your purpose. We'll uncover signs that you were never meant to fit in, because you were chosen to stand out. So take a deep breath. You made it. And what's coming next is nothing short of divine. Let's begin. You didn't survive all of that by accident. Every breakdown, every betrayal, every sleepless night was preparing you. There were moments where giving up felt easier, but something inside you refused to stop. That wasn't luck. That was divine resilience. You were being trained to carry something heavier than average people ever will. You were being built in silence, away from applause, so that your strength would never be based on validation, only on truth. They never saw your tears behind closed doors. They saw your comeback, not your collapse. And that's the power of being chosen. You shine through the ashes while others are still afraid of the fire. It was never about being the strongest. It was about not backing down when everything said you should. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you chosen. You didn't lose friends. You lost noise. You didn't lose opportunities. You lost distractions. Everything that left made room for everything real. The silence you feared became the space where your power grew. In that space, you heard your purpose whisper. In that quiet, you met your true self. And they were unshakable. There's a shift happening. You feel it, don't you? You're not desperate for attention anymore. You're not chasing validation. You're grounded. You see beyond the surface. You no longer fight to prove your worth. You embody it. This is your ascension. The pain didn't destroy you. It revealed you. You're not broken. You're born again. Different. Elevated. And now, nothing can touch you the way it used to. The old weapons don't work on this version of you. You don't react. You respond. You don't beg. You decide. You don't fear endings. You recognize them as divine exits. That's the evidence. You're chosen. And chosen ones walk alone before they're crowned in purpose. There's a reason it was so heavy. Not because you were weak, but because your calling was greater than you imagined. Most people crack under pressure, but pressure didn't break you. It built you. Every unanswered prayer was a setup. Every no was a redirection. Every heartbreak was a purification. You were being refined by the fire, not ruined by it. You stopped asking why it happened to you. You started asking what it was trying to show you. That's when everything changed. You stopped blaming the storm and started learning how to walk through rain without losing your fire. That mindset shift separated you from the rest. You went from victim to vessel. You see now that the rejection wasn't personal. It was protection. You were never meant to fit into their world because you were being prepared to build your own. Chosen ones aren't accepted. They're sent. You were sent into situations to expose what was false, to shake what was fake, and to plant seeds of truth even in barren ground. You carry something sacred. That's why it couldn't be easy. That's why you couldn't take shortcuts. Everything you went through had weight because your impact will have depth. You're not surface level, you're soul level, and people will feel that when they meet you, even if they don't understand it. And now your time has come. The silence has served its purpose. The storm has passed. You walk differently now, not because of ego, but because of awareness. You don't move to be seen. You move because you're guided. And wherever you go next, doors will open. Not because you forced them, but because they were always meant for you. Some people were only sent into your life to trigger your awakening. You didn't lose them. You gained clarity. What looked like love was a mirror, reflecting back everything you still needed to heal. That relationship, that friendship, that betrayal. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your alignment. You weren't being punished. You were being awakened. When the mask fell, it hurt, but that pain opened your eyes. You saw who they really were. But more importantly, you saw who you really were. You were no longer blind. You stopped shrinking yourself to keep the peace. You stopped explaining your worth. You finally chose yourself, even if it meant walking alone. Your peace became more expensive. Your silence more sacred. You no longer tolerate chaos just to feel connection. You realize love without respect is manipulation, and attention without consistency is just noise. You're not bitter. You're wiser. You don't chase, you attract, you don't beg, you observe. That shift in your energy. It's not arrogance, it's self-preservation. When you were constantly pouring into the wrong people, you were drowning in return. Now, you protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. Not everyone deserves access. Not everyone can reach the new version of you, and that's okay. What you walked away from didn't define your value. It revealed it. The fact that they didn't choose you doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means they were unqualified, and the best part? You didn't need them to become whole. You were always enough. You just needed the space to remember it. Your silence was never weakness, it was strategy. While they underestimated you, you were rebuilding in the dark. While they gossiped, you healed. While they moved on quickly, you went deep. And now, you're unrecognizable. Even to your old self, you didn't just change. You evolved. There's something powerful about not explaining yourself. You stopped proving. You stopped arguing. You started moving. You let go with grace. Not because they deserved it, but because you did. You didn't need closure. You needed peace, and peace comes when you stop entertaining confusion. You carry a quiet fire now. You don't need to announce your glow-up. Your presence speaks for itself. People can feel the difference. You're more grounded, more calm, more aware. You're not triggered like before. You're not reactive. That's not numbness. That's wisdom. You learned that not everyone can go where you're going. Some were only part of your training, not your destiny. Holding on would have cost you your soul. Letting go set you free, and in that freedom you found yourself. You realized you were never abandoned. You were being redirected, protected, elevated. Now when you look back, you don't feel regret. You feel gratitude because every setback was sacred. Every ending was divine. Every loss was love in disguise, forcing you back into alignment. And the person you are today, they're the proof. You didn't just survive, you transcended. There were seasons where you gave everything and still felt empty. You loved deeply, supported endlessly, stayed loyal beyond reason. But they couldn't see your value. Not because it wasn't there, but because their vision was limited. You were asking people to recognize gold while they were still chasing glitter. It was never about you. It was about their inability to see beyond their own wounds. You don't need validation anymore. You know what you bring. Your presence heals. Your silence teaches. Your energy shifts rooms. But not everyone can hold what you carry. That's why they dropped it. That's why they mistreated it. You weren't too much. They were simply too small for what you're called to do. And now you finally believe that. You've stopped over-explaining your heart. You no longer water yourself down to be accepted. You've realized that being misunderstood is a small price to pay for inner peace. And that peace? It's sacred now. You're no longer addicted to potential. You want proof. You want actions. You want soul, not performance. You're done settling for surface when you were born for depth. Every time you were overlooked, rejected, or taken for granted, it was a redirection. Life was pulling you back so it could launch you forward. Your time in the shadows taught you how to see in the dark. That's why nothing surprises you anymore. You see patterns. You read energy. You've become immune to manipulation. Not bitter, just awakened. And now, you walk with quiet confidence. You don't announce your worth, you embody it. You don't chase, you align. You're no longer looking for a seat at their table. You're building your own. And the people meant for you, They'll recognize you by your peace, not your pain. By your energy, not your effort. There's a stillness in you now that wasn't there before, a calm strength that comes from having faced your own darkness and made it out alive. You no longer fear endings because you've seen what they make room for. You don't cling to what fades, you trust what flows. That's the power of healing. That's the gift of being broken and rebuilt the right way. The chaos that once controlled you no longer moves you. You've become emotionally bulletproof. You feel deeply, but you're not ruled by feeling. You act from truth, not trauma. That's rare. That's sacred. That's the result of doing the inner work when no one was watching. Your scars became your wisdom. Your silence became your teacher. You've learned how to protect your energy, not just from others, but from yourself. From your old habits, your people-pleasing, your fear of being alone. You no longer abandon yourself to keep others close. You know now, the real you is more than enough. And if someone can't hold space for that version, you bless them and release them. You don't need loud victories. You don't need applause. Your peace is proof. Your boundaries are sacred. You no longer confuse attention with love or consistency with control. You've become fluent in energy, and that fluency, it saved your life. It taught you that your intuition was never lying. You were just afraid to listen. Now, you move with intention. You speak with clarity. You rest without guilt. You're not fighting for your worth anymore. You are your worth. The old version of you, grateful for their effort, but the new you, unapologetic, aligned, and finally, free. There are moments when life strips everything away, not to punish you, but to reveal who you truly are without the noise. When you're left with no applause, no support, no distractions, that's when the real awakening happens. You see what matters. You see what's real. And in that stillness, you discover your core. Not the image others created for you, but the truth you were born with. That truth is often inconvenient. It demands you leave behind everything familiar. It asks you to walk away from comfort and step into purpose, and that's terrifying. Until you realize comfort was killing your growth. The version of you that stayed safe could never touch destiny. It took isolation to see it. It took emptiness to feel it. You were chosen to rise in the quiet, to be built in the wilderness. You weren't designed for the crowd. You were designed to lead, and leaders are made in the shadows, not the spotlight. That's why you've been hidden. That's why you've been overlooked. Not because you're unworthy, but because your moment hasn't needed you yet. Now, the time has come. The pain sculpted you. The silence shaped you. You carry weight now, depth, wisdom. You walk into rooms differently. You see through people. You speak less, but your energy says more than words ever could. This is the version of you that was always waiting to emerge. And the most powerful part? You no longer need permission to be who you are. You no longer wait to be chosen, because you know you were chosen. Chosen to break cycles, chosen to carry truth, chosen to walk paths few dare to take. This is not the end. This is your becoming. What once triggered you now teaches you. That's how far you've come. The same situations that once broke you now reveal your growth. You no longer personalize everything. You no longer chase closure. You've made peace with not knowing, because your spirit knows more than your mind ever could. There's a sacred strength in your silence. You don't retaliate, you release. You don't argue, you observe. You've learned that not every battle is yours to fight. Some things don't need your energy. Some people don't deserve your explanation. Your peace is too valuable to rent out for cheap reactions. You've stopped being the one who always reaches out, always fixes, always explains. Now, you let people show you who they are without interference, and when they do, you believe them. You don't rewrite red flags into potential. You don't water down your standards. You stay rooted in truth, even if it costs connection. Your boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges to self-respect. You're not cold, you're clear, you're not distant, you're discerning. You love with depth, but you don't bleed for people who never asked how deep the wound goes. You've learned to pour into cups that pour back. Mutual energy only, and now you glow differently. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally aligned. Aligned with your worth, aligned with your path, aligned with your higher self, and that alignment, it radiates, it attracts, it protects. You're not the same, and that's the point. There are certain things you walk through that no one claps for. No one sees the quiet battles, the silent tears, the moments you had to be your own hero. But those are the moments that shape you, that refine you, that prepare you to carry a kind of strength the world doesn't understand, but desperately needs. You're no longer trying to be understood by those who can't comprehend your depth. You've outgrown the need for approval. You've stopped explaining storms to those who only know sunshine. Some people will never get it, and that's okay. Your path is sacred. It's not meant to be crowded. The fewer who understand it, the more it's protected. You've realized that the greatest power isn't in control. It's in surrender. Not giving up, but letting go. Of what no longer aligns, of who no longer matches your frequency. You don't need to force what's meant for you. You simply have to stay aligned. And what's truly yours will recognize your energy. People may question your distance, your silence, your new standards. But they weren't there when you broke down. They didn't see the weight you carried just to smile. That's why their opinions hold no weight. They can't judge a story they never read. And you? You've stopped giving them the pen. Now you walk with reverence. Not arrogance, reverence. For your path, for your peace, for your purpose. You understand now that healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming whole. And you're no longer chasing the light. You are the light. Congratulations. If you're still here, it means you survived what was meant to destroy you. You're not broken. You're built. You didn't just go through the storm, you grew through it. And now you carry the kind of wisdom no book can teach. You earned it through fire, through silence, through survival. The old version of you would have begged to be chosen. This version chooses itself. You're no longer interested in fitting in. You're here to stand out, not in ego, but in authenticity. You speak less. You move differently. You honor your intuition like it's gospel, because it's never led you wrong. Everything that left to make space. Space for alignment, for purpose, for real love, for sacred peace. You stopped settling the moment you realized you were worth waiting for, and now your life is starting to reflect the healing you did in private. What was once broken is now blooming. You no longer need to prove your worth. You are your proof. Your energy is different. Your presence is healing. You're not interested in shallow conversations, surface-level love, or loud validation. You want depth, truth, legacy. You're no longer looking to be remembered. You're focused on being real. And as you step forward, remember this. You didn't come this far to repeat old cycles. You came to rewrite the story, to shift the lineage, to embody a peace no one can steal. So stand tall, chosen one. It's already done. Now live like it, and now you know. Nothing was wasted. The silence, the heartbreak, the waiting. All of it was sacred preparation. You weren't being broken. You were being built. You didn't lose. You learned. You didn't fall behind. You fell into alignment. If you felt something shift in you today, if your spirit whispered, "This was for me," then you're not just a listener. You're one of heaven's chosen. Tell me in the comments, what part of this message spoke directly to your soul? What did you survive, and how did it shape you? Let's create a space of truth and healing together. And if you made it all the way to the end, drop these words in the comments so I know you're walking this path with me. Heaven's chosen. Thank you for being here. Your presence is divine. Until next time, stay grounded, stay rising, and never forget, you are not alone.